In this lesson, we'll continue our review of Writing Test 10, Section 2. We're now on the third passage. Marsupials lend a hand to science. Marsupials, mammals that carry their young in a pouch, are a curiosity among biologists because they lack a corpus callosum, the collection of nerve fibers connecting the two hemispheres of the brain. In most other mammals, the left hemisphere of the brain controls the right side of the body. The right hemisphere controls the left, and the corpus callosum allows communication between the hemispheres. Scientists are long believing that this structure enables complex tasks by sequestering skilled movement to a single hemisphere without sacrificing coordination between both sides of the body. This sequestration would explain handedness, the tendency to consistently prefer one hand over the other hand in humans. And so I read all this, and you want to make sure that you do, even though it's just one question, just to get a sense of the theme of this passage. And also, many times you'll have questions that refer to information that don't have a question about it. And so, especially at the beginning of the passage. So the first question, number 23, scientists are long believing that this structure enables. So are long believing, this doesn't really make sense. We have are, which is the present tense, and believing. So if you look at the choices, will long be believing, have long believed, or long believe? And you want to ask yourself, it seems like the scientists have thought this for a long time, and it continues to this day. And you would want the present perfect, which is have long believed. So have is plural because of scientist. If it were singular, it'd be has. But the present perfect means that it started in the past, this belief, and it continues to this day. So the answer for this question is C. And then 24, I touched upon that at the end. This sequestration would explain handedness, the tendency to consistently prefer one hand over the other in humans. So one hand over the other. This looks good. Let's take a look at the choices and favor the use of one hand over the other. Favor the use of one hand. This is sort of repetitive because we have favor and over, and it's bulky too. Let's take a look at C. Prefer one hand over the other. That could be chosen. Again, that's repetitive. And D, one hand on a regular basis. But if you look a little bit before, we see the word consistently. So consistently prefer one hand on a regular basis. That's redundant. The answer here is just no change. One hand over the other in humans. However, a recent finding of handedness in marsupials suggests that a trait other than the presence of corpus callosum links as handedness bipedalism. So a couple of questions here suggest that a trait other than the presence of the corpus callosum. And if you look at the choices, this is just testing punctuation. Do we need any punctuation? Do we need a comma there? Do we need a pause to separate a clause? Definitely not a semicolon, which separates two independent clauses. A colon, again, we don't need any punctuation. Just read it. The marsupial suggests that a trait other, right? There's no pause. There's no break there. So this one is no change as well, number 25. And 26, the presence of corpus callosum links as handedness bipedalism. And this is more of like an idiomatic question. You want to think, what is the correct word here? Links seems a little incorrect, doesn't it? We want that two factors, they move together, and it looks like correlates is better. And they're also testing the correct preposition. Is it correlates with or correlates from? And this one, you really just have to kind of test it out, because there's no way you're ever going to memorize like all the potential prepositions with verbs. And this one, it correlates with. That's the idiomatic phrase. That's the correct preposition. And so the answer here is B. All right, let's do a few more on the next page. So a new paragraph starting with 27. Researchers at St. Petersburg State University and the University of Tasmania observed marsupials walking on either two legs, bipeds, or four, quadrupeds, and performing tasks such as bringing food to their mouths. The scientists employed a mean handedness index, negative scores indicating a left forelimb preference, and positive scores indicating a right forelimb preference. So 27, which accurately reflects the information in the graph. So I'll scan down to the graph. So whenever you see this question, you just want to accurately interpret the graph. And the way it appears now, negative scores indicate left forearm preference, positive indicate right. Well, let's see if that's correct. So here's the graph, and here's right, and here's left. Left, this is 0, are positive, right? And right are negative. So it's backwards the way it's listed. You want to be careful because I know the tendency might be to think that positive is right, but you have to look at the graph here. So negative scores are not left, negative scores are positive. If you look at the choices here, it is D, right? Positive scores indicate the left forlim, and negative scores indicate the right. So whenever you see a question like that, just make sure you accurately interpret the graph. While eating, the eastern kangaroo, red-necked wallaby, red kangaroo, and brush-tailed bettong, all bipedal marsupials, preferred using their left forelimb as revealed by positive mean handiness index less than 0.2 for all 4 species. These results suggest handiness among these animals. So the last 2 questions on this page. So 28, we're just listing different animals, right? We're listing the kangaroo, the wallaby, the red kangaroo, and then we have the comma after the and. And so whenever you're listing items, right, we're just listing these bipedal marsupials, we just want commas. And by the way, they always use the Oxford comma. And so just to review, the Oxford comma is when you have a list and the last one has the and. Some schools of thought say that you don't need a comma at all, but because it's an objective test, you'll never have a choice between a comma and no comma. They always will use the Oxford comma, and it's before the and. And so here, if you see in the way it appears now, it's after the and. So just out of order, it should be before the end. That's a pretty straightforward question. It's certainly not a semicolon or an em dash. We're just listing items, so we need the comma. And the last question is another graph question, 29. Preferred using their left forelimb as revealed by a positive mean handiness index values less than 0.2 for all 4 species. And so here's the graph again. The 4 species are on the bottom. And left forelimb, it says less than 0.2. So here's 0.2. I'm just going to draw a horizontal line. That's not correct because it looks like they're all really between 4 and 6. So here's 0.4, here's 0.5. So this is incorrect. And the answer here is a positive mean handiness between 0.4 and 0.6. So just another graph interpretation question.